This One's Wife, Ninaki Priddy, The Skeleton in the Closet. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. The relationship between This One's Wife and Ninaki Priddy spans from early childhood friendship to a dramatic fallout, marked by shared milestones and eventual estrangement. This One's Wife and Priddy met aged 2 at the Little Red Schoolhouse, a private Hollywood nursery, forging a bond that Priddy later described as sisterly. Their families were close. Priddy's father was a friend of This One's Wife's uncle, facilitating playdates that evolved into a 31-year-old companionship filled with sleepovers, road trips, and confidences about first loves and family issues. During their teenage years, the duo's adventures highlighted their closeness. At 15, they travelled to Europe, posing for the oft-seen photo outside Buckingham Palace. A trip Priddy recalled as prescient, noting This One's Wife's fascination with the royal family. She was always fascinated by the royal family. She wants to be Princess Diana 2.0, Priddy told Page 6 in 2017. A candid 1999 home video, captured by Priddy during a drive after This One's Wife's audition for a Shakira music video, showed an 18-year-old This One's Wife confiding about her strained relationship with her father, Thomas. "We aren't going to go there because my dad and I aren't on the best of terms." As adults, their bond endured through This One's Wife's early acting career. Priddy, a jewellery designer, supported This One's Wife during her breakthrough on Suits. A pinnacle moment came in 2011 when Priddy served as maid of honour at This One's Wife's wedding to producer Trevor Engelson in Jamaica. Priddy remembered the day fondly. It was such a beautiful day. This One's Wife was the perfect bride. However, cracks emerged post-marriage. By 2013, amid Suits filming in Toronto, This One's Wife and Engelson divorced. Priddy was shocked by the abrupt end, claiming This One's Wife sent her wedding ring back via registered mail, a cold act which left Engelson devastated. After meeting Engelson, Priddy learned details that shattered her view of This One's Wife. "What came to light after Trevor and I spoke ended my friendship with This One's Wife. She accused This One's Wife of changing with fame, becoming calculated, and employing a shutdown mechanism to discard people." The friendship dissolved swiftly. Priddy felt but she had lost a friend, saying in 2017 interviews, "I think everybody who knew us was in shock." As This One's Wife announced her engagement to Prince Harry in 2017, Priddy shared photos, videos and stories with outlets like The Sun and the Daily Mail, actions which This One's Wife may have viewed as betrayal, fueled by envy on the part of Priddy. Some suggest that This One's Wife outgrew old friends, like Ninaki Priddy, owing to lifestyle shifts post-royalty. A brief summary of the relationship that took place between childhood friends, This One's Wife and Ninaki Priddy. You know that the narcissist doesn't have any genuine friends, because friends are appliances. Friends are non-intimate secondary sources in the narcissist's fuel matrix. They are there to be controlled. They are there to provide fuel. They are there to provide character traits for the narcissist to take. They are there to provide residual benefits. In other words, the friend is to be used for the needs and requirements of the narcissist. With a middle range type A narcissist, such as This One's Wife, her facade is hugely important, and friends play a massive part in that, for they forge the facade which the narcissist relies upon. By largely treating them well, the narcissist relies upon those friends to say, "Oh, This One's Wife was the perfect bride, she's a wonderful friend, oh, she's always there for me." And then that facade is used by the narcissist to control other people and to draw fuel, and also to counter threats to control from unreliable appliances. In other words, ones who might just see through the narcissist and start to call them out. This is where it is often problematic for a friend who has found themselves on the receiving end of devaluing behaviour, corrective devaluations, and knows what the narcissist is really like. The problem that they have is that if they attempt to tell other people what the narcissist is really like, that act of itself threatens the narcissist's need for control. That then means that the narcissist will look to ostracize that friend all the more, smear them, and become friendlier with other people in order to try and isolate that individual. Invariably, this works because the charm and the pleasantries of the narcissist are welcomed by the other friends who see a consistency in the behavior, and they just put it down to a falling out. In some instances, they believe what they're told by the narcissist, and the smearing works, so that the former friend becomes an outcast. That former friend who actually knows what the narcissist is, either knowing full well they're a narcissist, or at least knowing that they are not the pleasant person that they portray themselves as, finds themselves largely disbelieved and silenced, because the narcissist is rather adept at utilizing the already established facade to say, well, you know me, I've always been good with you, I've always been a good friend. And the other friend thinks, well, that's true. And therefore, they reach the conclusion that the other individual must be the troublemaker. The problem is that invariably, the ostracized friend doesn't have the means or platform to affect enough people to make them see that this person is a narcissist. And invariably, they move on elsewhere and the episode becomes forgotten about. The narcissist invariably will do it to somebody else, but there isn't usually anybody who's keeping score of these fallouts, because the nature of the circles within the fuel matrix shifts, and therefore people come and go, and people are too focused on themselves. But that all becomes different when you are dealing with an overexposed narcissist such as this one's wife. The difference is that there are people, mainstream media, social media, willing to listen and amplify the stories of people that know this one's wife. And, as we have seen, this one's wife, the typical narcissist that she is, has subjected many people to the shelving dynamic and also disengaging from them. This is because, as this one's wife has moved through different strata, she has ultimately decided, guided by her narcissism, I don't need my father anymore. He's a nuisance. He doesn't provide me with anything. Accordingly, the narcissism disengages him. Ditto her half-brother. Ditto her half-sister. Ditto certain people who she worked with on Suits. Ditto the childhood friend that is Ninaki Priddy. Priddy was deemed to be too awkward because she started to see what this one's wife was really like with regard to her treatment of Trevor Engelson. Undoubtedly, because he was the intimate partner primary source, Engelson received the sustained devaluation from this one's wife and, in all likelihood, told Ninaki Priddy about some of the behaviours of this one's wife. The facade that this one's wife utilised was not sufficient to deal with these disclosures, and in effect, Ninaki Priddy looked at the way she was being treated by this one's wife, who became more emboldened as a consequence of her fame, but the underlying narcissism was the same, and also how Trevor Engelson, who evidently she looked upon favourably, had been treated. She put her own experience and that of Engelson and perhaps other people that she'd witnessed being treated badly by this one's wife all together and realised that this one's wife was not the good friend that she thought that she was, and thus estrangement followed. Ordinarily, this would not be such a problem for the narcissist because they would either hoover the individual back in and charm them once again, or they would just leave them out in the cold and deal with other people. As mentioned earlier, that friend often doesn't have the means, platform, energy, or inclination to keep trying to bring to people's attention the fact that the narcissist is a thoroughly unpleasant individual, and they get on with their life. But when it comes to this one's wife, as a consequence of her thirst for fuel and her need for control, she has become overexposed, meaning there are plenty of people who want to listen to what people who know her have to say. And An excellent example of how another skeleton has come out of the closet, and, as I have advised so many times before, if you give the narcissist enough rope, especially the lesser and mid-range ones, they'll hang themselves. And we have an excellent example of this with Ninaki Priddy emerging from the closet to share some insight on X about this one's wife. Have a look at this. This appeared in a thread in relation to this one's wife's part 2 of season 1 with Love Meghan, with Ninaki Priddy writing, "Cognitive dissonance is something quite beautiful to witness, An uncanny case study that continues to teach me in the most humorous and mystical ways. Multivalent level of amnesia with a dash of joy that allows one to so thoroughly forget one's behaviour and transgressions. Quite bold." It's evidently a piss take of the word salad that this one's wife utilises, but it's a convoluted and entertaining way of Ninaki Priddy saying about this one's wife, she's a liar. Liar, liar, pants on fire. That she knows that she's a liar because she knows lots about her from the childhood that they shared, which I discussed earlier on. That she knows much about her when they went into adulthood. She knows much about her from her first relationship with Trevor Engelson. And as a consequence of that, she's watching that skeleton in the closet that sees when this one's wife recounts an anecdote, she sits undoubtedly and shakes her head and says, that's simply not true. That didn't happen. That's at odds with what went on. And on this occasion, she felt that it was appropriate for her to speak out in this way, demonstrating in an articulate manner that this one's wife is a case study of cognitive dissonance with amnesia, basically calling this one's wife out as a liar. Now, she's not specific as to what actual lie it is that's been told, but is basically saying, you can't trust this woman. What she tells you about her life isn't to be accepted. I know this, and I found out to my cost, as did Trevor Engelson, as have other people. And this is invariably what will happen with lesser and mid-range narcissists such as this one's wife, that there is always that skeleton in the closet, that there is always somebody who knows what the narcissist is about and how they've been behaving. It's just whether they have large enough platform and or are believed by people that they actually take notice of what is being said. And as I explained earlier on, often they struggle in that regard. But somebody like Ninaki Priddy, who has credibility by virtue of the fact that she is a known childhood friend of this one's wife, that is known that they had fallen out as a consequence of her disapproval of the behaviour of this one's wife, and the fact that she's able to garner a platform, we have this lovely morsel that you see across your screen, where basically she pops out of the closet to point the finger and tell this one's wife, you're a liar. Exposed once again. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.